Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I'll show you how to turn your landscape paint tool into a procedural foliage system. Instead of placing foliage manually or setting up multiple PCG volumes, we can control everything directly on the landscape. We're not painting meshes, we are painting data. That means we can instantly spawn grass, trees and rocks with just a few brush strokes and still stay fully procedural. If we want to change something later, we don't have to repaint anything. We just adjust the PCG settings and everything updates automatically. First, we create a very simple landscape material with layers. Right-click and create a new material. Then right-click again and create a landscape layer blend node and connect it to the base color pin. Also set specular to 0 and roughness to 1 for now. In this example, I want to use 3 PCG layers and 2 material layers for the ground. To actually see our landscape, we also create a base color layer. So create a few layers. Name the first one base color, then add PCG grass, PCG trees and PCG rocks, for example. Leave all in weight blend mode. Create a constant 3 vector node by holding 3 on your keyboard and left-clicking. Change the color to a very dark gray, like 0.075, and connect it to the layer base color. Duplicate this node and change the color to a lighter gray, like 0.1. Then connect it to the 3 PCG layers. This color setup is just to see the brush stroke while painting. The layers themselves will be used by a PCG graph to spawn meshes exactly where we paint. Then create 2 more layers. Name them ground material and grass material. This time change the blend mode to alpha. In this case, I use some textures from Quixel. Bring in the base color textures and connect them to the layer input of the blend node. To be able to scale the texture if necessary, create a landscape layer chords node and connect it to the UV inputs of the textures. Here you can adjust the scale of the texture mapping. To use normal maps for the material layers, we need another landscape layer blend node. Every parameter needs its own layer blend. So duplicate the first one and connect it to the normal pin. Bring in the normal maps, connect them to the correct layer pin and also to the landscape chords node. But we also need to connect a neutral normal map to the first 4 layers. So add another constant 3 vector node and make it fully blue, 0, 0 and 1, and connect it to all of the 4 layers. Now create a material instance of it and assign it to your landscape. Open the landscape tool and switch to paint mode. Then click on this little symbol, Create Layer from Assigned Material. After that, click on Autofill Target Layer Assets. Select Create New Assets in the default folder and hit All Layers. This creates all required layer assets automatically. Finally, right-click on the base color layer and choose Fill Layer. Before creating our PCG graph, just paint a small area of each PCG layer so we can get instant preview when setting up the PCG. Now switch back to selection mode. By default, the PCG plugin is not activated, so we need to enable it first. Go to Plugins and search for Procedural Content Generation Framework. Then restart the engine. Right-click in the content browser, search for PCG graph and create an empty graph. First, create a Get Landscape Data node. Then add a surface sampler. Save and drag the PCG graph into your level. This creates a PCG volume that you can scale and move around. Now we define our most dense layer for the grass. I set the points per square meter to 10 and point extents to 2 by 2 by 2 to get a very dense field of spawn points for the grass layer. Now add an filter attributes elements node. Leave the operator set to greater than, and for the target attribute use your material layer name. In my case, PCG_grass. Make sure the name matches your landscape layer exactly. Check Use constant threshold. Set the type to float and set the float value to 0.2. So, if the weight blend of the layer is greater than 0.2, the meshes will spawn. All layer weights together have a value of 1. And this way we can mix layers together if we want grass and trees in the same area. Drag out from the inside filter and add a transform points node to customize the spawn points. I set the max Z rotation to 360 to get maximum variety. Then I set the minimum scale to 0.5 and leave max scale at 1. But these numbers depends on your mesh. You can adjust these numbers at any time. Finally, add a static mesh spawner node and assign your grass mesh. I got these meshes from fab.com. All assets I used are linked in the video description. Now you should be able to see the spawned meshes in your level. Adjust the values if needed. To create a second layer, just duplicate this node chain. Adjust the values for your meshes and in the filter attribute elements, set the target attribute to your exact tree layer name. If we now open the landscape paint mode and paint with one of our PCG layers selected, the PCG graph will automatically spawn the defined meshes. And we can paint the ground material just by selecting its layer. And that's it for today. With just a few brush strokes, you can turn an empty landscape into a fully populated environment, while still keeping everything procedural and editable at any time. I hope this was helpful. If you want more tutorials like this, just leave a comment. Cheers!